Many people spend their entire lives believing they need someone beside them to feel complete. They believe happiness comes from having constant company, endless support, and people who are always available. They fear being alone because they confuse solitude with loneliness. But what if this belief has been stealing your peace all along? What if the greatest freedom in life begins the moment you stop depending on other people for your happiness? Think about how much of your emotional energy is spent waiting for messages, seeking approval, hoping someone understands you, or feeling disappointed when people fail to meet your expectations. The more your happiness depends on others, the more fragile it becomes. Every change in a relationship becomes a source of anxiety, and every disappointment feels like a personal loss. Buddhist wisdom teaches a different path. It teaches that solitude is not emptiness. It is the space where you reconnect with yourself. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you no longer fear silence, rejection, or loneliness. Instead, you discover a peace that remains with you wherever you go. Today, let us explore the wisdom that will help you enjoy life alone, free yourself from emotional dependence, and experience a happiness that no one can take away. 1. Stop looking for happiness in other people. Many people spend their entire lives believing that happiness is waiting inside another person. They search for the perfect friend, the perfect partner, or the perfect family, hoping that once they find the right people, all loneliness and suffering will disappear. Yet I tell you, this search often leads not to peace but to disappointment. Every human being is imperfect. Every relationship changes with time. If your happiness depends entirely upon another person's presence, then your peace will disappear whenever they change, become busy, misunderstand you, or walk away. The Buddha taught that lasting happiness cannot be borrowed from another heart because every person is walking their own path through life. True peace begins when you stop asking others to carry the responsibility for your happiness and begin discovering the quiet joy that already exists within your own mind. The Buddha reminded us that attachment often disguises itself as love. You tell yourself that you simply care deeply for someone, but hidden beneath that care is the belief that without them you cannot be happy. This belief creates fear. You fear losing them, disappointing them, or being left behind. Instead of enjoying the relationship, your mind becomes occupied with protecting it at all costs. Love slowly transforms into anxiety because your happiness has become dependent upon something that constantly changes. Real love allows freedom. Attachment demands certainty. The more you depend upon someone for your emotional well-being, the more fragile your peace becomes. Lasting happiness cannot grow where fear is constantly taking root. Imagine standing beneath the sun while carrying a small candle in your hands. If the candle goes out, you panic because you believe it is your only source of light. Yet you have forgotten that the sun has been shining above you the entire time. Many people live this way. They become so focused on finding happiness through another person that they overlook the deeper source of peace already present within themselves. The Buddha taught that awareness is like the sun. It has always been there. When you reconnect with your own heart through mindfulness and understanding, you realize that your happiness was never completely dependent upon another person's presence. It was simply hidden beneath your attachment and fear. Many people become exhausted because they constantly seek reassurance from others. They wait for messages to feel valued, compliments to feel confident, and attention to feel loved. When these things arrive, they experience temporary happiness, but when they disappear, anxiety quickly returns. This cycle continues because external approval can never permanently satisfy an inner emptiness. The Buddha encouraged people to look inward instead of outward. A heart that knows its own worth no longer needs constant reminders from the world. It appreciates kindness when it comes, but does not collapse when it is absent. This creates stability, because peace is no longer controlled by the unpredictable actions of others. Observe how much suffering enters life when every emotional need is placed upon another person. A delayed response becomes a source of worry. A disagreement feels like rejection. A period of distance creates fear. None of these experiences would carry such power if happiness had stronger roots within yourself. The Buddha taught that suffering often begins where attachment becomes excessive. The more tightly you cling to another person as the source of your joy, the more vulnerable you become to every change in the relationship. Freedom begins when you stop expecting others to fill the spaces that only self-understanding can truly heal. As people grow older, many realize that every relationship in their lives has changed in some way. Some friends moved away. Loved ones followed different paths. Family members grew older or became occupied with their own responsibilities. Those who built their happiness entirely upon these relationships often struggled deeply with every change. But those who cultivated peace within themselves discovered something remarkable. They continued loving others sincerely while remaining emotionally steady. Their happiness was enriched by relationships, but not completely dependent upon them. This quiet independence allowed them to enjoy people more fully because they no longer feared every ending. The Buddha often sought solitude because he understood that a peaceful relationship with yourself is the foundation of every other relationship. When you enjoy your own company, you stop approaching others with emotional desperation. You no longer expect them to rescue you from loneliness or complete your identity. Instead, you meet them with openness, kindness, and gratitude. Relationships become expressions of shared joy rather than attempts to escape inner emptiness. This transforms love itself. It becomes lighter, freer, and more compassionate because it is no longer driven by fear or dependence. Therefore, I say, stop looking for happiness in other people. Appreciate those who walk beside you, love them sincerely, and cherish every meaningful connection. But never place your entire peace into hands that were never meant to carry it. Human beings are beautiful companions on life's journey, but they cannot become the permanent home of your happiness. Build that home within your own heart through awareness, gratitude, and wisdom. Then every relationship becomes a blessing rather than a necessity. When you no longer depend on people to make you whole, you discover that the deepest joy has been waiting quietly inside you all along, untouched by absence, untouched by change, and untouched by the passing seasons of L2. Learn to enjoy your own company. Many people fear being alone because they have been taught that constant company is proof of a meaningful life. They look at silence and imagine emptiness. They look at a quiet room and imagine rejection. Yet I tell you, solitude is not the same as loneliness. Loneliness is the pain of feeling disconnected, while solitude can become the peaceful discovery of your own presence. When you never spend time with yourself, you begin believing that another person must always fill the space inside you. You search for conversation, attention, and noise, not because you truly need them, but because you have not learned to sit calmly with your own heart. The path toward inner freedom begins when you stop treating your own company as a burden. You are the one person who will travel with you through every season of life. Learn to know this companion with patience, kindness, and awareness, and silence will slowly stop feeling like an enemy. You do not have to become extraordinary in order to deserve your own attention. Simply being alive is enough reason to meet yourself with respect today. The Buddha taught that stillness reveals what noise often hides. When you are always surrounded by activity, you may not notice the worries, fears, and old wounds living quietly within your mind. But when you sit alone, these things begin to rise. At first, this can feel uncomfortable. The mind may bring memories you tried to avoid, or questions you did not want to answer. Do not mistake this discomfort for failure. It is simply the beginning of clear seeing. You cannot heal a wound you refuse to look at, and you cannot understand a mind you are always trying to escape. Solitude gives you the space to observe your thoughts without running after them. It allows you to notice which fears are real, which stories are imagined, and which burdens no longer need to be carried. In this quiet observation, you begin to meet yourself honestly. That meeting is not loneliness. It is the doorway to wisdom. The quiet mind does not demand instant answers. It learns to remain present with uncertainty until understanding arises naturally, like clear water settling after rain. To enjoy your own company, you must first stop speaking to yourself as though you are an enemy. Many people sit alone and immediately begin judging their past, comparing their life, or criticizing every weakness they can find. Then they wonder why solitude feels painful. If you entered a room with someone who insulted you all day, you would naturally want to leave. The inner voice deserves the same attention. Learn to speak to yourself with the gentleness you would offer a tired friend. Recognize your mistakes without turning them into a reason for shame. Notice your fears without allowing them to define you. The more compassion you bring to your inner world, the safer your own company becomes. A peaceful relationship with yourself is not built by pretending that you are perfect. It is built by accepting that you are human, learning from what has happened, and allowing yourself to grow without constant punishment. In this way, your own heart becomes a place where you can rest. This practice does not make you selfish. It makes your kindness more genuine, because you no longer give love only to earn proof that you deserve it. Many people use relationships as a way to escape themselves. They move quickly from one conversation to another, one friendship to another, or one relationship to another, because being alone forces them to feel what they have been avoiding. Yet no person can permanently distract you from an unsettled mind. The same insecurity that follows you into solitude will often follow you into a crowded room. The same emptiness you hope another person will remove may appear again, even when someone is sitting beside you. This is why learning to enjoy your own company is not rejection of others. It is the end of using others as an escape from yourself. When you become comfortable alone, you no longer ask people to rescue you from every difficult emotion. You can still love them, laugh with them, and share life with them, but you meet them from wholeness rather than desperation. Relationships become lighter because they are no longer carrying the impossible task of making you complete. When you stop escaping yourself, you discover that the emptiness you feared was often only unvisited space, waiting to become calm, creative, and alive. Begin with simple moments instead of waiting for solitude to become magical. Sit quietly with a cup of tea and notice its warmth. Take a slow walk and observe the sky, the trees, and the rhythm of your breathing. Read a few pages that nourish your mind. Prepare a meal with care. These small acts teach you that your life does not need constant company in order to contain beauty. The mind often believes happiness must arrive through something dramatic, but peace frequently enters through ordinary moments that receive full attention. The Buddha encouraged mindfulness because mindfulness turns simple experiences into opportunities for gratitude. When you learn to be present with yourself, a quiet morning becomes meaningful, a peaceful meal becomes enough, and a walk alone becomes a return to life. You stop seeing solitude as an absence of people and begin seeing it as the presence of awareness. This shift changes the quality of your days because you no longer wait for someone else to make your life feel alive. Let these moments remind you that you are not waiting for life to begin when someone arrives. Life is already here, asking for your full presence. At first, solitude may bring restlessness. You may reach for your phone, search for a message, or feel an urge to fill every silent moment with noise. This does not mean you are incapable of being alone. It simply shows that your mind has become accustomed to constant distraction. Every habit feels uncomfortable when it begins to change. The skill is not to force silence harshly upon yourself, but to return gently whenever you notice the urge to escape. Take one breath, look around the room, feel your feet on the ground. Let the moment be simple. Over time, the mind learns that silence is safe. It discovers that it does not need to chase stimulation every second in order to feel alive. This quiet training strengthens emotional independence. You become less controlled by boredom, less afraid of empty space, and more able to remain steady when nobody is available. Solitude becomes a practice of trust in your own ability to stay present. Each return is a small victory. With patience, the need to escape weakens, and the ability to remain with yourself becomes one of your quiet strengths. When you learn to enjoy your own company, you begin discovering parts of yourself that were hidden beneath the expectations of others. Perhaps you stopped listening to music that once moved you because someone else did not understand it. Perhaps you gave up a dream because it did not fit the image others wanted for you. Perhaps you forgot what brings you peace because you were always trying to keep everyone else comfortable. Solitude creates room for these forgotten parts to return. In quiet moments, ask yourself what truly matters to you. Ask what kind of life feels honest, what values make you feel calm, and what activities restore your energy. These questions do not need immediate answers. Their purpose is to bring your attention home. The more you listen inwardly, the less you depend on outside voices to tell you who you are. This is how a stronger identity grows, not through performance, but through patient self-discovery. You may be surprised by how much wisdom appears when you stop constantly asking the world for instructions and give your own awareness time to speak. A person who is comfortable alone is not cold, distant, or incapable of love. In truth, they often love more freely because they do not cling so desperately. They do not demand that every friend reply immediately or that every loved one remain unchanged forever. They understand that people have their own lives, worries, and paths. Because their happiness has roots within, they can appreciate connection without becoming frightened by distance. This is one of the greatest gifts of solitude. It teaches you that love does not need to be possession. You can care deeply for someone without making them responsible for your emotional survival. You can miss someone without losing yourself. You can enjoy their presence without fearing every goodbye. Relationships become healthier when they are chosen from gratitude rather than need. The heart becomes lighter because it has stopped turning every connection into a test of worth or a guarantee of happiness. Solitude prepares you to love with freedom instead of fear. This does not weaken connection. It removes the fear that makes connection painful, allowing affection to remain warm, respectful, and free of constant demand. Many people fear that a life alone will be empty because they measure richness only by social activity. Yet a quiet life can be full of meaning. There is meaning in learning, creating, caring for your body, tending to your home, noticing nature, and becoming more aware each day. There is meaning in a peaceful routine that allows your mind to settle. The Buddha taught that contentment is a great wealth because a contented mind does not constantly demand more in order to feel complete. When you enjoy your own company, you begin building a life that does not need to be witnessed by others in order to matter. You stop performing happiness and start experiencing it. The simple things become more vivid because you are actually present for them. A life does not become small because it is quiet. It becomes rich when it is lived with attention, gratitude, and a heart that knows how to rest in itself. Meaning is not measured by how many people see your life. It is measured by how deeply you inhabit it with a clear and grateful heart. As you grow more comfortable with yourself, you also become stronger during times when others are unavailable. There will be days when friends are busy, family does not understand, and no one can give you the exact support you hoped for. A person who has never learned inner companionship may experience these moments as abandonment, but a person who has practiced solitude can meet them with greater steadiness. They know how to calm their breathing, write their thoughts, take a walk, or simply sit with a difficult feeling until it softens. This does not remove the value of support. It simply means your survival does not depend entirely upon receiving it at every moment. The Buddha taught that the mind can become its own refuge through awareness and discipline. When you develop this refuge, you stop panicking whenever life becomes quiet. You trust that you can remain with yourself through uncertainty, and that trust becomes a deep form of freedom. Then solitude is no longer proof that you have been left behind. It becomes evidence that you possess an inner strength which can walk beside you. Do not compare your solitary path to the lives of people who appear constantly surrounded by others. You do not see the full condition of their minds, and they do not walk your exact journey. Comparison turns solitude into a punishment because it makes you believe you are missing a life that belongs to someone else. But your task is not to imitate another person's path. Your task is to meet your own life with honesty. Some seasons are filled with people, and some are quieter. Both can teach you something. A crowded season may teach you love and patience. A solitary season may teach you self-respect and inner strength. The Buddha taught that all conditions change. Instead of resisting the season you are in, learn from it. When you stop measuring your life against another person's appearance, you become able to see the gifts that are already present in your own path. Your path does not need public approval to be valid. A peaceful life built honestly is more valuable than an admired life built through self-betrayal over time. Therefore, I say, learn to enjoy your own company. Do not wait for silence to become easy before you meet it. Meet it gently, and it will become easier. Give yourself small moments of presence each day. Listen to your mind without judgment. Care for your body with patience, and allow your heart to become familiar to you. The goal is not to reject people or prove that you need no one. The goal is to stop abandoning yourself whenever no one else is near. When you can sit peacefully with yourself, you no longer enter relationships from fear of emptiness. You enter them with gratitude, clarity, and freedom. Your own company becomes a source of strength that remains with you through every change in life. And when you discover that you can be at home within yourself, solitude no longer feels like a loss. It becomes one of the quiet places where your deepest peace begins. This inner home cannot prevent sadness, but it gives sadness a safe place to pass through without turning it into fear, panic, or permanent loneliness. 3. Turn solitude into your greatest teacher. Many people enter solitude believing it is a punishment, as though life has taken something precious away from them. They see an empty room, a quiet evening, or a season without close companionship, and immediately assume that something is missing. Yet solitude is not always a loss. Sometimes it is life creating space for you to finally hear what your heart has been trying to say. When the voices of other people become quiet, you begin to notice your own thoughts more clearly. You see the desires that have been guiding you, the fears that have been controlling you, and the wounds that have been asking for your attention. This can feel uncomfortable at first, because silence does not flatter the ego. It reveals what has been hidden. But I tell you, the things you discover in quiet moments can become the beginning of your freedom. Solitude teaches you that your life is not empty simply because no one is speaking to you. It shows you that you carry an inner world waiting to be understood. The moment you stop running from quietness, you begin to see that it is not an enemy. It is a patient teacher waiting for you to sit down and listen. In a busy life, people often confuse movement with progress. They fill every hour with work, messages, entertainment, and conversation because they fear the stillness that arrives when everything stops. Yet a river that is constantly stirred cannot reflect the sky clearly. In the same way, a restless mind cannot see itself clearly while it is always distracted. Solitude gives the mind time to settle. It allows the dust of worry, comparison, and emotional noise to slowly fall away. Then you begin to understand which thoughts are truly yours and which were placed there by fear, society, or the expectations of others. You may realize that you were chasing things that never brought peace. You may see that certain relationships were draining you more than supporting you. These insights cannot always come in a crowded room. They often arrive only when you are quiet enough to notice them. Solitude teaches you to pause before following every desire. It teaches you that not every thought deserves your trust. and not every emotion deserves your obedience. This is how wisdom begins, not by escaping the mind, but by observing it with patience. One of solitude's greatest lessons is that you do not need constant noise to feel alive. Many people become dependent on stimulation because silence makes them feel unfamiliar to themselves. They reach for their phones when they are uncomfortable, turn on music when the room is quiet, or search for someone to talk to whenever difficult emotions arise. But every time you escape the present moment, you miss the chance to understand what that moment is trying to teach you. Solitude invites you to remain where you are. It asks you to sit with boredom without rushing to remove it. It asks you to feel sadness without immediately covering it with distraction. It asks you to notice the quiet beauty that exists in ordinary life. A cup of tea, morning sunlight, a walk beneath the sky, or the sound of rain can become deeply meaningful when the mind is fully present. You begin to learn that life is not only made of dramatic events or exciting company. It is also made of simple moments that become sacred when you stop overlooking them. Solitude trains the heart to recognize enoughness in what is already here. When you are alone, you are given an honest opportunity to meet your fears. In the presence of others, it is easy to hide behind roles. You may appear confident, helpful, cheerful, or strong, while inside you are carrying anxiety, grief, or uncertainty. Solitude removes many of these masks. It asks, "Who are you when no one is watching?" This question is not meant to frighten you. It is meant to free you from living only for appearances. You may discover that you have been trying too hard to impress people who do not truly know you. You may realize that your choices have been shaped by the fear of being judged. In quiet reflection, you can begin to separate your true values from the pressure placed upon you by the world. This is a powerful lesson because a person who knows their own heart becomes less easily controlled by outside opinions. Solitude teaches you to stand before yourself without pretending. It helps you see where you are weak, but it also helps you recognize the strength that has quietly carried you through every difficult season. Honest self-knowledge is not harshness, it is the beginning of inner respect. Many painful attachments become visible only in solitude. When you are constantly occupied with people, you may not realize how deeply your happiness depends on their attention. You may believe you simply love them, while secretly your mind is waiting for their message, their approval, or their reassurance. But when they are absent, the attachment reveals itself. You notice the restlessness. You notice the fear of being forgotten. You notice the emptiness that appears when no one is there to distract you from yourself. Do not be ashamed of this discovery. It is a lesson. Solitude does not create these attachments. It simply reveals what was already living inside you. Once you see them clearly, you can begin to loosen their hold. You learn that another person's silence does not reduce your worth. You learn that being alone does not mean being unwanted. You learn that your peace does not have to collapse whenever someone becomes distant. This is one of the greatest teachings of solitude. It turns emotional dependence into awareness, and awareness is the first step toward freedom. You cannot release what you refuse to see, but once you see it with honesty, the path of healing begins to open before you. Solitude also teaches you how to become your own source of encouragement. Many people wait for others to remind them that they are capable, valuable, or strong. They feel motivated only when someone praises them and discouraged whenever no one notices their effort. Yet life will not always provide an audience for your growth. There will be work you must do quietly, healing you must do privately, and decisions you must make without anyone fully understanding them. Solitude prepares you for these moments. It teaches you to continue even when no one is clapping. It teaches you to recognize your progress without needing public approval. You begin to understand that your discipline matters even when it is unseen, and your efforts have value even when they are not celebrated. A seed grows beneath the soil long before anyone sees a flower. In the same way, Much of your strongest growth happens in quiet places where no one else can measure it. Solitude teaches you to trust this hidden work. It reminds you that becoming stronger is not always loud, admired, or dramatic. Sometimes it is simply choosing to keep going with dignity when nobody is there to encourage you. There is also a deep lesson in learning to be alone with your own memories. Many people carry the past like a closed box they are afraid to open. They stay busy because they do not want to remember what hurt them. But unexamined pain does not disappear simply because it is ignored. It waits quietly beneath the surface, shaping reactions, fears, and relationships. Solitude gives you the chance to look at the past with a calmer mind. You may remember a betrayal, an ending, a disappointment, or a time when you felt unseen. Instead of allowing these memories to control you, you can observe them with compassion. You can say, "This happened, it hurt, and I am still here." This is not weakness, it is courage. Solitude teaches you that healing does not always come from forgetting. Sometimes it comes from remembering without becoming trapped. You begin to understand that the past is a chapter, not the whole story of your life. You can learn from it without carrying its weight forever. In this way, silence becomes a place where old wounds are not ignored, but slowly transformed into wisdom. A person who spends time alone also learns the difference between need and desire. In the presence of constant comfort, it is easy to believe that every craving must be satisfied immediately. You may feel that you need attention, entertainment, reassurance, or company, when in truth, you only desire them in that moment. Solitude creates space between the feeling and the reaction. It helps you notice that many urges rise, remain for a while, and eventually pass. You do not have to obey each one. This is a powerful lesson because much suffering comes from treating temporary feelings as permanent truths. You may feel lonely tonight, but that does not mean your life is empty. You may feel anxious in a quiet moment, but that does not mean something is wrong with you. The mind changes like the sky. Clouds appear and disappear, but the sky remains. Solitude teaches you to become less frightened of passing emotions. You begin to sit beside them rather than becoming them. With practice, you gain a steady inner strength that does not depend on every mood becoming pleasant before you can feel at peace. Solitude teaches you to create a life that feels meaningful, even when no one is watching. Many people only value activities that can be shown, praised, or shared with others. They forget that some of the most important parts of life are quiet and private. Reading something that opens your mind, caring for your health, learning a skill, tending to your home, praying or meditating, writing your thoughts, and walking in nature may not bring applause, but they shape the quality of your inner life. When you begin doing these things for your own growth, rather than for attention, you become less dependent on outside validation. You discover that meaning does not need an audience. A peaceful morning has value even if no one sees it. A kind act has value even if no one knows your name. A day spent becoming more aware has value even if it looks ordinary from the outside. Solitude teaches you to build a relationship with life itself, not only with other people's reactions to your life. This creates a quiet richness that cannot be taken away by changing relationships, fading attention, or the absence of applause. In solitude, you also learn that being by yourself does not mean you are separated from life. Many people think connection only exists through conversation and company, but there are many forms of connection. You can feel connected to the earth beneath your feet, the air moving through your lungs, the sky above you, and the countless people who have faced similar struggles before you. You can feel connected to humanity through compassion, even when you are physically alone. A quiet moment can remind you that every person carries pain, hope, fear, and longing. This understanding softens the heart. Instead of becoming bitter because you feel alone, you begin to recognize that no human life is free from solitude. It is part of the shared journey. Solitude can therefore make you more compassionate, not less. It teaches you to understand people without needing to possess them. It teaches you to appreciate connection without becoming dependent on constant closeness. When you realize that you belong to life itself, you stop seeing quietness as exile. You begin to see it as a return to something vast, peaceful, and deeply human. As you grow older, you may discover that solitude becomes more valuable than many of the distractions you once chased. You begin to understand that not every invitation deserves your energy, not every conversation deserves your attention, and not every relationship deserves access to your peace. This is not because you become cold or uncaring. It is because you have learned the value of a calm mind. Solitude teaches discernment. It helps you recognize when you are giving too much of yourself to people who leave you drained. It shows you that peace is not something to trade away simply to avoid being alone. A wise person does not fear a quiet life. They know that silence can restore what noise has exhausted. They know that time alone can bring clarity that years of seeking approval cannot provide. When you begin protecting your solitude, you start choosing relationships more carefully. You no longer accept every connection simply because you fear emptiness. You choose people who respect your peace, and you learn to leave situations that continually disturb it. Solitude becomes the standard that teaches you what true connection should feel like. Therefore, turn solitude into your greatest teacher. Do not wait until you feel completely comfortable before allowing yourself to be still. Begin with small moments. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Walk without needing to fill every second with sound. Listen to the thoughts that arise, but do not chase them. Let the silence show you what needs healing, what needs releasing, and what needs growing. Solitude will not always feel easy, but it can become deeply meaningful when you meet it with patience instead of fear. It can teach you self-respect, emotional freedom, discernment, courage, and peace. It can show you that you are capable of standing on your own without becoming closed to love. The purpose is not to reject people or prove that you need no one. The purpose is to become so grounded within yourself that people become companions, not emotional lifelines. When solitude becomes your teacher, you stop fearing the quiet seasons of life. You begin using them to rebuild your heart, strengthen your mind, and discover a freedom that stays with you wherever you go. 4. Stop depending on approval and attention. Many people do not realize how much of their peace has been placed in the hands of strangers. A kind word lifts them for a moment, a compliment makes them feel worthy, and a little attention convinces them that they matter. But when praise becomes quiet, they begin to doubt themselves. When a message is not answered, they feel forgotten. When someone else receives recognition, they feel smaller. I tell you, this is a painful way to live, because the world is too changeable to become the keeper of your value. Approval comes and goes according to moods, preferences, and circumstances. Attention can be offered today and withdrawn tomorrow. If your heart depends upon these passing things, then your happiness will be unstable. The wiser path is to ask not, "Who is noticing me?" but, "Am I living with truth, kindness, and awareness?" When your life is guided by these qualities, you become less hungry for applause. You begin to understand that your value is not created by being seen. It exists even in the quiet moments when nobody is looking. A person who knows this carries a calmness that no ignored message, criticism, or absence of praise can disturb. The desire for approval often begins quietly. You may shape your words so no one disagrees with you, hide your real feelings to remain liked, or make choices that please others while your own heart grows tired. At first, this seems harmless. You tell yourself that you are being polite, peaceful, or considerate. But when you repeatedly abandon your truth to protect other people's opinions, you slowly forget who you are. The Buddha taught that suffering grows when we cling to an image of how others must see us. You cannot control every judgment, and you cannot make every person understand your intentions. Some will appreciate you, some will not. Some will praise what others criticize. If you try to satisfy every eye, your life will become a performance without end. Freedom begins when you stop making popularity the measure of your goodness. You can remain respectful without becoming false. You can be kind without agreeing to every demand. You can be humble without shrinking your identity. The peace you seek comes when you allow your actions to be guided by wisdom rather than fear of being disliked. Not everyone approves of your path for it to be meaningful. Attention can feel like warmth when the heart has been cold for a long time. A message, a compliment, a gesture of interest, or a crowd listening to your words can make you feel alive. There is nothing wrong with enjoying human connection. The problem begins when attention becomes the only proof that you exist. Then silence feels like rejection. Ordinary days feel empty, and you begin searching for people who will constantly reassure you. Yet the mind that always needs to be noticed can never rest. It becomes dependent on a hunger that no amount of attention can satisfy for long. The Buddha encouraged people to observe cravings carefully, because every craving promises relief, while quietly creating more restlessness. The more you feed the need to be seen, the more frightened you become of being unseen. Instead, learn to sit in a quiet room without making it mean that you are unimportant. Learn to do good work without announcing every effort. Learn to care for your own heart before asking the world to prove that you deserve care. In this way, attention becomes a pleasant gift, not a condition for your peace. Imagine a tree growing in a forest. It does not ask the other trees to praise its roots before it continues reaching toward the sky. It does not stop producing leaves because no one is watching. It grows according to its nature, receiving sunlight, rain, and time. Your life can become like this. You do not need an audience for every act of growth. Much of the most important work happens quietly, choosing patience when anger rises, keeping a promise to yourself, learning from a mistake, resting when you need rest, and continuing after disappointment. These actions may never receive applause, yet they shape your character more deeply than public praise ever can. The Buddha taught that intention matters more than display. What you cultivate within becomes part of you, whether or not anyone recognizes it. When you begin honoring your unseen efforts, you stop waiting for the world to confirm every step. You become able to celebrate your own progress with humility. This is not pride, it is self-respect. You are learning to become your own witness, not to make yourself superior to others, but to stop abandoning your worth whenever others are too distracted to notice it. One of the hardest habits to release is comparison. You see someone receiving admiration, success, affection, or attention, and your mind immediately asks why your own life looks quieter. You may begin believing that their visibility is proof of their value, and your silence is proof of your failure. But the mind sees only a small part of another person's journey. It does not see their private struggles, doubts, losses, or price paid for what you admire. The Buddha taught that comparison feeds dissatisfaction because it turns your attention away from the path beneath your own feet. Instead of asking whether you are becoming wiser, kinder, and more peaceful, you begin measuring yourself against appearances. This steals the joy of your own growth. Your journey is not meant to look like anyone else's. Some lives grow loudly, while others grow deeply in quiet places. The flower that opens later is not less beautiful because another flower opened first. Stop turning someone else's attention into evidence against yourself. Return to your own life, your own responsibilities, and your own small progress. Peace returns when you stop competing for a place that was never meant to define your worth. The need for approval can also make you afraid of making mistakes. You may avoid trying something new because you fear looking foolish. You may remain silent because you fear saying the wrong thing. You may delay your dreams because you fear others judging your imperfect attempt. Yet no person becomes wise by avoiding every error. The Buddha taught that understanding grows through experience. A mistake seen clearly can become a teacher, while a life ruled by fear remains small and unfinished. When you depend too much on approval, you give other people the power to decide whether you are allowed to learn. But their opinions cannot live your life for you. They cannot walk your path, carry your regrets, or become the person you are meant to become. Allow yourself to be a beginner. Allow yourself to improve slowly. Let criticism become information when it is useful, but do not turn it into a prison. Your dignity does not disappear because you fail once, or because someone misunderstands your effort. The strongest confidence is not the belief that you will never be judged. It is the knowledge that you can remain whole, even when judgment comes. There are times when attention is offered, not because someone truly respects you, but because they want something from you. They may praise you when you are useful, become warm when they need your energy, or give you just enough affection to keep you close. A heart that is starving for attention may accept this treatment because any small sign of interest feels precious. But I tell you, not all attention is love, and not all praise is sincere. The Buddha taught discernment, the ability to see clearly without hatred. When you learn to value yourself, you become less easily controlled by people who use approval as a reward and silence as a punishment. You begin noticing whether a relationship brings dignity or confusion, peace or constant anxiety. You no longer chase the affection of those who only appear when it benefits them. Instead, you choose connections where respect is steady and kindness is not used as a tool. This change may feel lonely at first, but it creates a healthier life. Better a quiet heart with self-respect than a crowded life built upon begging for crumbs of attention from people who do not truly value you. A quiet mind learns to separate praise from identity. When someone admires you, receive it with gratitude, but do not build a throne upon it. When someone criticizes you, listen carefully, but do not allow one opinion to become a verdict on your whole life. Praise and criticism are both passing sounds. They may contain something useful, but neither one can fully define the depth of your character. The Buddha encouraged balance because extremes create suffering. If praise makes you believe you are above others, you become dependent on hearing more of it. If criticism makes you believe you are worthless, you become dependent on avoiding it. In both cases, your peace belongs to outside voices. A balanced person remains open but grounded. They can learn from feedback without losing themselves in it. They can accept appreciation without needing to be constantly admired. This balance gives the heart great freedom. You begin to see that your task is not to control what everyone says about you. Your task is to live in a way that you can quietly respect when the room is empty. That inner respect will last longer than any applause. To stop depending on attention, create a life that feels meaningful in private. Do something each day that no one needs to know about. Read a page that expands your mind. Exercise your body even when no one will praise the effort. Clean your space, write your thoughts, learn a skill, or sit in silence for a few minutes. These private acts remind you that your life has value beyond what can be displayed. The Buddha taught that the mind becomes peaceful when it is not always searching for more. A meaningful routine gives the heart roots. You no longer spend every day asking who will notice you, because you are busy becoming someone you can trust. This does not mean you must isolate yourself or reject encouragement. It means you no longer depend on public response to feel that your day mattered. Over time, these unseen habits create a quiet confidence. You become less restless when nobody calls, less anxious when no one praises you, and less tempted to prove your worth through performance. You learn the rare joy of knowing that a good life can be lived even in complete silence. Many people confuse humility with making themselves invisible. They believe that accepting their own worth is arrogant, so they minimize their gifts, hide their achievements, and accept disrespect in order to appear modest. But true humility is not self-erasure. It is the ability to see yourself clearly without making yourself greater or smaller than you are. The Buddha taught compassion for all beings, and that compassion includes the person you meet in the mirror. You can recognize your strengths without demanding worship. You can speak honestly without needing to dominate. You can accept a compliment without becoming dependent upon it. When you understand your own worth, you do not need to force others to see it. You become calmer because you are no longer fighting to prove yourself. The need to be admired weakens when you stop doubting whether you deserve respect. This is why self-respect is so important. It teaches you to stand upright without standing above anyone. You no longer need to chase attention because you have learned to offer yourself the acknowledgement you once begged from others. A person grounded in quiet self-respect becomes difficult to manipulate and easy to be at peace with. As you grow older, you may look back and realize how many decisions were made simply to receive approval. Perhaps you chose an impressive path without peace. Perhaps you stayed in relationships that made you small. Perhaps you hid your true hopes because you did not want to disappoint people who never had to live with the consequences of your choices. This realization is not meant to fill you with regret. It is meant to awaken you. Every day that remains is an opportunity to return to yourself. The Buddha taught that the present moment is where transformation becomes possible. You cannot change the years spent seeking approval, but you can choose not to offer your remaining life to the same hunger. Begin asking what your heart truly needs, not what will make others praise you. Begin making decisions that allow you to sleep with a clear mind. The world may not always understand your changes, but peace often begins where explanation ends. You do not need permission to become honest, balanced, and faithful to your own path. Your life becomes lighter when you stop living as an answer to other people's expectations. Therefore, stop depending on approval and attention. Let appreciation come when it comes, but do not make it the food your heart cannot live without. Let people have their opinions, but do not allow their changing judgments to become the ruler of your identity. Build your days around values that remain meaningful when no one is watching: kindness, discipline, truth, patience, and compassion. Learn to enjoy your unseen progress. Learn to sit peacefully when the phone is silent. Learn to let another person's lack of attention remain their choice, rather than turning it into a wound against your worth. You are not less valuable because someone fails to notice you. You are not incomplete because you are not constantly praised. The deepest freedom arrives when you no longer need the world to confirm what your own awakened heart already knows. Then attention loses its power to control you. Praise becomes pleasant but unnecessary. Criticism becomes something you can examine without fear. And your life becomes guided not by the desperate need to be seen, but by the quiet strength of knowing who you are when nobody is looking. 5. Build a life that brings you joy from within. Many people wait for life to become perfect before allowing themselves to feel joy. They think happiness will arrive when they have more money, more attention, a better relationship, or fewer problems. But life rarely becomes completely free from difficulty. One desire is fulfilled, and another desire quickly appears. One worry leaves, and another takes its place. If you keep waiting for everything outside you to become perfect, you may spend your whole life postponing peace. Joy does not begin when life finally gives you everything you want. It begins when you learn to notice the goodness already present in this moment. A warm meal, a quiet morning, a healthy breath, a peaceful walk, and a kind thought can all become sources of real happiness when the mind is awake enough to receive them. Build a life that does not require constant excitement to feel meaningful. Learn to find beauty in ordinary days. The person who can appreciate small blessings is never truly poor because their heart has learned how to create richness from what is already available. This is where lasting joy begins, not in chasing more, but in seeing more clearly what life has already placed in your hands. A joyful life is not built through one dramatic decision. It is built through the quiet habits you repeat, when no one is watching. The way you begin your morning, the thoughts you allow into your mind, the food you give your body, and the people you give your energy to all shape your inner world. Many people wake up immediately, carrying yesterday's worries into today. They fill their first moments with noise, comparison, and pressure. Then they wonder why their hearts feel heavy before the day has even begun. Start differently. Give yourself a few quiet moments before the world asks anything from you. Sit with your breath. Notice that you are alive. Set one peaceful intention for the day. You do not need to create a perfect routine. You only need to create a kinder one. Small rituals become powerful when repeated with awareness. A calm morning can change the direction of an entire day. When you choose habits that nourish your spirit, you stop waiting for joy to appear from outside. You begin growing it gently within your own daily life. Many people believe joy must be loud. They think happiness looks like constant celebration, endless travel, expensive possessions, or a life that impresses everyone else. But the deepest joy is often quiet. It comes when you can sit beneath the evening sky without needing anything more. It comes when your home feels peaceful, your mind feels clear, and your heart is no longer rushing to prove itself. A simple life is not an empty life. It is a life where you are no longer distracted by things that do not truly matter. Learn to enjoy a peaceful meal without needing to show it to anyone. Learn to rest without feeling guilty. Learn to take pride in a clean space, a completed task, or a calm conversation. These moments may look small, but they are the threads from which a beautiful life is woven. When you stop measuring joy by what other people can see, you become free to experience it more deeply. The mind becomes grateful for what is real, instead of constantly craving what is distant. This quiet contentment is one of the greatest treasures a person can cultivate. Your body is also part of the life you are building. Many people search for emotional peace while neglecting the body that carries them through every day. They sleep carelessly, eat without awareness, avoid movement, and then wonder why their minds feel restless and weak. The body and mind are not separate enemies. They are companions on the same journey. Care for your body not because you are trying to impress anyone, but because you are honoring the life you have been given. Walk when you can, stretch your muscles, drink water, rest when your body asks for rest. Eat with gratitude rather than punishment. These simple acts strengthen more than your physical health. They teach the mind that you are worth caring for. A person who begins treating themselves with patience becomes less likely to seek escape in unhealthy habits or empty distractions. Joy grows when you feel present inside your own body instead of always trying to run away from it. Let your daily care become a quiet form of self-respect. When the body is supported with kindness, the mind has a stronger foundation upon which peace can grow. A life filled with joy also needs meaningful work, even if that work is small and unseen. Many people feel empty because they spend their days only reacting to problems, demands, and other people's expectations. They forget the deep satisfaction that comes from creating, learning, improving, and contributing. You do not need a grand title or public success to live with purpose. Purpose can be found in caring for your family, learning a new skill, helping someone who is struggling, building a healthy routine, or doing your work with honesty. The important question is not, will everyone admire what I do? The important question is, does this make my heart feel useful and alive? When you give yourself to something meaningful, your mind becomes less trapped in unnecessary sadness. You begin to see that your life has direction. Even small efforts become valuable when they are made with sincerity. A seed does not become a tree overnight, but each day it grows quietly beneath the soil. Your purpose can grow in the same way. Continue doing what brings you closer to wisdom, service, and self-respect, even when nobody is watching your progress. Gratitude is one of the most powerful ways to rebuild joy from within. the mind naturally notices what is missing. It sees what other people have, what life has not given, and what still needs to be fixed. This habit can make even a beautiful life feel empty. Gratitude does not deny pain or pretend that problems do not exist. It simply refuses to let difficulty become the only thing you see. Each day, train your attention to notice what is still good. Notice the person who spoke kindly to you. Notice the strength that carried you through a difficult moment. Notice the roof above you, the food before you, the breath in your lungs, and the chance to begin again. When you practice gratitude, you are not forcing happiness. You are teaching the mind to see reality more completely. Life contains loss, uncertainty, and disappointment, but it also contains countless quiet gifts. A grateful heart does not become weak or naive. It becomes steady. It learns that joy can exist beside hardship. This is a great freedom because you no longer need life to be perfect before you allow yourself to appreciate it. Many people lose joy because they are constantly comparing their lives with the lives of others. They see someone else's success, relationship, beauty, or lifestyle and immediately feel that their own path is not enough. Yet comparison is a thief that never becomes satisfied. No matter how much you achieve, there will always be someone with something different. If you make your happiness dependent on being ahead of others, you will always be running. Your life is not meant to be a competition. It is a path of understanding, growth, and becoming. The flower does not compare itself to the mountain, and the river does not envy the tree. Each has its own nature, its own rhythm, and its own purpose. Learn to respect your own timing. Some parts of your life may be growing slowly because they need deeper roots. Some doors may remain closed because another path is still forming before you. Instead of asking why your life does not look like someone else's, ask what your present season is trying to teach you. When you return your attention to your own path, you recover the joy that comparison quietly steals from you. Joy grows when you learn to protect your attention. Your mind is like a garden. Whatever you allow into it every day will eventually grow. If you constantly feed it fear, gossip, anger, and meaningless distraction, the garden becomes crowded with unrest. But if you feed it wisdom, calmness, beauty, and thoughtful reflection, something different begins to bloom. Be careful what you listen to when you are tired. Be careful whose opinions you allow to live in your mind. Be careful not to spend every quiet moment consuming noise that leaves you more empty than before. This does not mean you must become separate from the world. It means you must become conscious of what the world is doing to your peace. Choose voices that help you become wiser. Choose conversations that leave you lighter rather than confused. Choose moments of silence when the mind has had too much stimulation. A person who protects their attention protects the direction of their life. When your mind is no longer scattered everywhere, you have more energy to enjoy what is truly in front of you. Inner joy needs space, and protecting your attention creates that space. Another way to build joy is to learn how to create instead of only consume. Many people spend their days taking in other people's opinions, images, stories, and achievements. They watch life constantly, but they forget to participate in it. Creating can be simple. You may write your thoughts, cook something with care, arrange your room, plant a seed, repair an old habit, learn an instrument, or make something useful with your hands. Creation brings the mind into the present moment. It reminds you that you are not only here to receive life, you are here to shape it. When you create, even in a small way, you begin feeling more connected to your own potential. You stop believing that joy must be delivered to you by another person or another event. You discover that you can add beauty, order, and meaning to your own days. The result does not need to be perfect. The purpose is not to impress anyone. The purpose is to give your spirit a voice. A life that includes creativity becomes richer because it allows your inner world to become visible in gentle, meaningful ways. A joyful life also requires the courage to release what keeps poisoning your peace. You cannot build inner happiness while continually returning to places, habits, and relationships that make you feel small. Some people hold on to what hurts them because it is familiar. They remain in painful patterns because they fear the uncertainty of change. But familiar suffering is still suffering. There comes a time when you must ask whether something belongs in your future or only belongs in your past. Releasing does not always mean anger or dramatic endings. Sometimes it simply means stepping back, becoming quieter, and refusing to give more energy to what repeatedly drains you. Joy cannot grow where your heart is constantly defending itself. Protect your peace with wisdom. Let go of habits that make you ashamed of yourself. Let go of conversations that leave you anxious. Let go of people who only value you when you are useful to them. The space created by letting go may feel empty at first, but it soon becomes room for healthier things to enter. A peaceful life is not built only by adding what you love. It is also built by removing what keeps you from loving yourself. As you grow older, you may realize that the happiest moments were rarely the ones that looked impressive from the outside. They were often the simple times when your heart felt free, laughing without fear, resting without guilt, walking quietly, sharing a meal, learning something new, or feeling thankful for another day. This realization teaches you that joy is not something you need to chase across the world. It is something you must become available to receive. Slow down enough to notice your own life. Do not allow every day to become a race toward a future moment that may never arrive exactly as you imagined. The present is not a waiting room, it is your life. Treat it with care. Speak to yourself gently. Make room for calmness. Do things that bring you closer to your real values instead of farther from them. When you learn to fully inhabit the day you are living, even ordinary moments begin carrying a quiet brightness. The future will come when it comes, but peace can only be practiced now. Joy lives in the present because the present is the only place where your heart can truly rest. Therefore, build a life that brings you joy from within. Do not depend entirely on people, possessions, or perfect circumstances to make your heart feel alive. Let your joy grow through gratitude, meaningful work, healthy routines, simple pleasures, quiet reflection, and the courage to live honestly. Make your days something you can respect, even when they are not exciting. Create small moments that remind you you are alive and capable of peace. Let happiness become less about receiving and more about becoming calmer, becoming wiser, becoming kinder, becoming more present. You do not need a perfect life to build a peaceful one. You only need the willingness to return to yourself again and again. When you learn to create joy within, you no longer fear the quiet days. You no longer panic when others are distant. You carry a source of warmth inside you that can survive changing seasons, changing relationships, and changing circumstances. Then life becomes less about searching for someone or something to complete you, and more about discovering the quiet beauty of being fully present in the life that is already yours. 6. True freedom begins when you need no one to complete you. True freedom begins when you stop believing that another person must arrive before your life can feel complete. Many people carry an invisible emptiness and hope that love, friendship, or constant support will finally remove it. They search for someone who will understand every feeling, heal every wound, and remain through every change. Yet no human being can carry such a heavy responsibility forever. Every person has their own fears, limits, and path to walk. When you ask someone else to complete you, love becomes burdened by fear. You begin worrying that their distance will destroy you, their silence will reduce you, or their departure will leave you with nothing. Buddhist wisdom teaches that the first step toward freedom is recognizing that you are not half of a person waiting to be made whole. You are already a living, growing being with an inner life that deserves your care. Relationships may add beauty to your journey, but they should never become the only place where your happiness can survive. The moment you understand this, you begin loving with openness instead of need, and your heart becomes less afraid of every change. Needing no one to complete you does not mean becoming cold, proud, or unable to receive love. It does not mean closing your heart and pretending that you never need kindness. Human connection is beautiful, and support can be deeply healing, but there is a difference between appreciating people and depending on them for your identity. Appreciation says, "I am grateful that you are in my life." Dependence says, "Without you, I do not know who I am." The first creates warmth, the second creates fear. A free heart can enjoy companionship while remaining rooted in itself. It can accept love without panicking when love changes form. It can receive help without believing it is helpless. This balance allows relationships to breathe. You no longer cling, control, or demand proof of affection every day. Instead, you meet others as a complete person who has chosen connection, not as someone begging to be rescued from emptiness. The more secure you become within yourself, the less you ask people to carry wounds that only your own awareness, patience, and healing can truly address. Many people mistake emotional dependence for devotion because they have never been taught how to stand peacefully on their own. They stay awake waiting for messages, change their mood according to another person's attention, and abandon their own needs to keep someone close. They call this love, but love that destroys your peace is often attachment wearing a gentle name. Attachment whispers that you must hold tightly, or you will lose everything. It makes you accept less than you deserve because you are afraid that being alone would be worse. Yet the quiet truth is that abandoning yourself is often more painful than being alone. When you repeatedly silence your values, ignore your limits, and accept disrespect only to preserve a connection, you slowly disappear inside your own life. Freedom begins when you decide that no relationship is worth losing your self-respect. You can care for people sincerely without surrendering your peace. You can remain kind without becoming available for every demand. You can love deeply while still remembering that your heart is not a place others are allowed to rule. This is not selfishness. It is wisdom protecting the foundation of your life. Imagine a bird that has spent years inside a cage. Even when the door is opened, it may hesitate to fly because the cage has become familiar. Emotional dependence is often like this. A person may know that they are unhappy, yet they remain attached to what limits them because uncertainty feels frightening. They may fear the empty space that follows distance, or believe they have no strength outside the relationship that has defined them. But freedom always asks for courage before it gives peace. The first steps may feel strange. You may have to sit with your own sadness, make choices without someone's approval, and learn how to comfort yourself when no one is available. These are not signs of failure. They are the muscles of inner strength beginning to grow. The more you practice standing with yourself, the more you realize that solitude does not destroy you. It teaches you. You discover that you can survive a quiet phone, an unanswered question, a changing relationship, and an uncertain future. Slowly, the open sky becomes less frightening than the cage, and you begin trusting your own wings. A person becomes truly free when they stop making another person responsible for their emotional weather. Before that freedom, a compliment can make the day feel bright, while one cold reply can make everything feel dark. The mind becomes like a boat without an anchor, pulled by every wave of attention, criticism, closeness, and distance. But inner freedom means learning to return to yourself. When someone is kind, you appreciate it without losing balance. When someone is distant, you feel the sadness without turning it into proof that you are unworthy. When someone leaves, you allow grief to move through you without allowing it to convince you that your life has ended. This takes practice because the mind often wants to make every emotion permanent. Yet feelings are visitors. They arrive, they stay for a while, and they pass. You do not have to let them become the ruler of your identity. Through awareness, You begin to notice the difference between pain and the story you build around pain. The event may hurt, but your peace does not have to be destroyed with it. This is the strength of a heart that has learned how to remain its own refuge. To need no one to complete you, you must become interested in your own life again. Many people lose themselves inside relationships because all their energy goes into watching another person's moods, needs, and choices. They forget their own dreams, neglect their health, stop learning, and abandon the small things that once made them feel alive. Then, when the relationship becomes uncertain, they do not only fear losing the person, they fear meeting the empty life they stopped building. Begin rebuilding that life now. Return to activities that make you feel present. Care for your body, develop a skill, read something meaningful, create something with your hands, walk in nature, organize your space, or set a goal that belongs only to you. These actions are not distractions from love. They are ways of remembering that your existence has direction beyond anyone else's attention. The more you invest in your own growth, the less likely you are to make another person your entire world. A full inner life gives relationships a healthier place in your heart. People can become part of your joy without becoming the source of all your joy. There will be moments when you feel lonely, even after you have learned to value your own company. This is natural. Inner freedom does not mean you never miss anyone, never desire closeness, or never feel the ache of absence. It means you do not turn those feelings into a reason to betray yourself. You can miss someone without chasing them. You can wish for companionship without accepting harmful treatment. You can feel a quiet ache and still choose peace. Buddhist wisdom does not ask you to deny your human heart. It asks you to observe it with understanding. Loneliness often becomes most painful when we treat it as evidence that something is wrong with us. But loneliness is simply a feeling, not a final judgment. It can be met with gentleness, presence, and compassion. Instead of asking, "Who can remove this feeling for me?" you can ask, "What is this feeling asking me to understand?" Sometimes it asks for rest. Sometimes it asks for honest grief. Sometimes it asks you to reconnect with your own values. When you listen with patience, loneliness can become a messenger rather than a master. The need to be completed by another person often comes from an old belief that you are not enough as you are. Perhaps you were ignored, criticized, compared, or made to feel that love had to be earned. Because of those experiences, you may have learned to search outside yourself for the proof that you deserve care. But no amount of praise can permanently heal a wound that still believes it is unworthy. The healing must become more personal. It begins when you offer yourself the respect you keep hoping others will provide. Keep promises to yourself. Speak honestly about your needs. Rest when you are tired. Walk away when someone repeatedly dishonors your boundaries. Celebrate your small progress instead of waiting for an audience to notice it. These choices send a message to your heart: I will not abandon you. Over time, this message becomes stronger than the old fear of rejection. You begin to understand that your worth was never dependent on who stayed, who chose you, or who failed to see you clearly. Your worth is expressed through the life you continue building with courage, integrity, and compassion. When you become whole within yourself, your standards in relationships naturally change. You no longer feel grateful for the smallest amount of attention because you are no longer starving for proof that you matter. You begin noticing whether a person brings calm or confusion, whether they respect your boundaries or only enjoy your availability, whether they support your growth or quietly make you doubt yourself. This is not about judging everyone harshly. It is about seeing clearly. A heart that needs to be completed will often accept any connection just to avoid emptiness. A heart that feels grounded can choose more wisely. It understands that being alone is not the worst outcome. Losing peace, dignity, and self-respect is far more costly. When you stop fearing solitude, you stop settling for relationships that continually injure your spirit. You become able to leave without hatred, to forgive without returning to the same pain, and to love without disappearing. This is one of the greatest freedoms you can build, the freedom to choose connection from self-respect rather than from fear. Then love becomes a conscious gift, not a desperate need. As life changes, people will enter and leave in ways you cannot control. Some friendships will fade without a clear reason. Some people will be close to you during one season and distant in another. Some relationships will end even when you tried your best. If you believe another person must complete you, these changes can feel like the collapse of your identity. But when you have built an inner home, you can grieve without becoming lost. You can honor what was good without demanding that it last forever. You can accept that some people were teachers, not permanent companions. Impermanence is not always cruel. Sometimes it is the way life makes room for growth. Every ending asks you to return to yourself and remember what remains. Your breath remains, your values remain, your ability to begin again remains, your capacity to learn, heal, and love remains. The people in your life are meaningful, but they are not the entire meaning of your life. When you understand this, change becomes less terrifying. You stop trying to hold every person forever and begin appreciating the time you truly have with them. Freedom also means releasing the need to explain your worth to people who have decided not to understand you. Many people exhaust themselves trying to prove that they are loving enough, useful enough, successful enough, or deserving enough. They keep reaching toward those who offer little warmth, hoping that more effort will finally earn acceptance. But your value is not a case that must be argued before every person. Some people cannot see you clearly because they are looking through their own wounds, expectations, and limitations. You cannot force recognition from a closed heart. The wiser path is to stop begging for a place in spaces where your spirit is constantly made to feel small. This does not require anger, it requires clarity. You can step away quietly. You can stop explaining every decision. You can let your actions speak through the peace they create in your life. When you no longer need others to complete you, you also no longer need them to approve every part of you. You become free to live sincerely, even when you are misunderstood. That freedom is not isolation. It is the return of your energy to its rightful home, your own conscious heart. Therefore, true freedom begins when you need no one to complete you. It begins when you stop treating love as a rescue, attention as proof of worth, and companionship as the only answer to loneliness. It begins when you become willing to meet yourself with patience, care for your own wounds, and build a life that remains meaningful even in quiet seasons. You can still welcome love, cherish friendship, and receive support with gratitude. But you no longer make another person the foundation beneath your entire life. The foundation becomes your awareness, your values, your self-respect, and your capacity to return to peace. Then relationships no longer imprison you with fear. They become places where you can share joy without losing yourself. You can love people deeply while allowing them to be human. You can accept their presence without demanding permanence. And if they leave, you can feel the pain without surrendering your future to it. This is the freedom of a whole heart, not a heart that never needs kindness, but a heart that knows it can survive, grow, and remain worthy even when it must walk alone. In the end, enjoying life alone does not mean rejecting love, friendship, or family. It means discovering that your happiness does not disappear when people are absent. Relationships become healthier when they are built on appreciation instead of emotional dependence. You stop clinging to others because you have learned how to stand peacefully on your own. The greatest gift you can give yourself is the ability to enjoy your own life without constantly needing company, support, or validation. When you become comfortable with yourself, silence becomes peaceful instead of frightening, solitude becomes healing instead of painful, and your happiness becomes something that no one else can control. So continue to love people, cherish meaningful relationships, and welcome kindness into your life. But never forget that the strongest foundation for happiness is the one you build within yourself. The moment you truly enjoy life alone is the moment you discover a freedom that lasts far longer than the approval, attention, or presence of anyone else.